graphic. It's a map. You're in the middle of the map, your extended families around you, and then the seasons that you invest in your land are wrapped around that. Let's take a look. Here we go with your participation in a piece of land. And what we notice is that when you come from an industrial point of view, the mind usually tells the heart and the soul or body what to do. But in this case, when you're working with the land and these extensions touch the land, it is the soul, then the heart, that informs the mind. This is a shift for you psychologically. Practice actually in your daily life, feeling, locating it in your heart, and then bringing it up to your mind in terms of the way you discover what it is you're interested in doing. So around the individual here is the family of choice. Now we use that word because blood is not necessarily important, family is not that important. It's 10 or 12 people who learn how to get along together and can provide what you need to live on the land. And that's the way that goes. This information around here will inform you about the kind of people that would be really helpful to recruit before you take off. So, season number 1 starts with and ends with sanctuary. As we discovered what it was that we would need to do to go to paradise. We're not just trying to make a better earth here, we're trying to go to paradise. So the end goal when you have a piece of land is not to have a farm or a house, or anything we would normally, to end up with an agroforest full of sanctuaries, places for you to nestle in, magical spots you may have seen only in a Walt Disney movie, with animals around you and a pond and birds and the trees with wind moving through them. That's best we can figure out, more like paradise, and very, very possible on planet Earth, no matter what your climate is. So that's where we start mentally. To set up for that, you need to ask some pretty tough questions like, given where you live, how many months of food do you need to have stashed? How much water can you put your hands on? Do you have drinking water that's already there if the pipe stopped pumping it in? How much? Do you have a pond where you could dip your bucket so you can take care of flushing your toilets? You have another pond perhaps that you could use for washing your dishes and another one for washing your clothes. You see, we use a huge amount of water every day the way it is now, but that doesn't have to be all perfectly drinkable water. That's a smaller amount. But if you don't have the drinkable water, that's the thing that can do you in it the most. You have to have food, you have to have proper tools. What do you need? You need shovels that don't break, or backup shovels. What is that minimum set of things you need to be survivable? Now, moving from the survivable into the sustainable, here's where you take a piece of land, instead of imagining you're going to have rows and rows of crops going this way, you're going to have feet and feet and feet of fruit going up. The fruit tree doesn't have to be replanted every year. You don't have to do that drill. In fact, if you have fruit trees mixed all over your property, like an agroforest, then you have some food under the ground, you have some food on the ground, you have some food in boxes above, you might have a few poles going up for the beans, low citrus, higher citrus and other things, bananas, maybe in the right climate, and then you have flowers in the trees, you have actually wood, structural wood, and firewood. 7 layers. It's a big deal. But once it's in there and you get it positioned, within your first 10 years, you'll be in business and you'll be able to stay that way. Then you can focus on what it is the land can help you do to provide things to trade, to provide things to sell, to provide things to take to Saturday market, You can, in fact, run an internet business from wherever you are. You know, there's a good way to convert the land in very specialized ways into a business if you need. Finally, you get to handcraft your sanctuaries. Starting here with terraforming and ponds. As you go on a piece of land, before the contractor tells you where to put the house and the other one tells you where to put the road, make sure you take every place that's a natural pond and make a pond from it. Terraforming is where you take the land, if it's flat, and you dig some up and you put that into smaller mounds around. The more small mounds you have, the scale you can create is like the Shire, like Hobbit land. And that tends to be very, very interesting. And then as you plant, you create pathways to move through these areas. So your 3 acres can feel like 10. Story lanes and viewplane magic. Viewplanes, once you get to a piece of land, stake out the most beautiful long-range views and then start to build beautiful things into the viewplane as you move back and to a place where you might want to sit most of your day. And in addition to the viewplane magic, the story lanes. Every land has a story to it. What happened there in the ancients? What happened when Aboriginals lived there? What do you dream about having happen in the future? What is your paradise feel like as a story? This is important, and it'll help you choose the art that you put at the front entrance. As you put along the storybook lanes, you'll create the lanes that aim the driver or the walker into the most beautiful parts. Just versatile buildings. We have the ability to make little gypsy-style houses that are 2,000 pounds now. And when you're occupying a piece of land for the first time, you can move a couple of those around until you find exactly where the house site should be. And then you can use them for people who will come like woofers and help you cultivate during harvest season. Now we have ag forests and permaculture. I mentioned something about the 7-layer ag forest. It's prime, it's the piece of technology that's singly the most important thing. But permaculture is a way of doing the most with the least. In permaculture, if you trim a tree, you let the trimmings fall. They will then refertilize the soil. You don't use gasoline to go and pick these trimmings up, put them in a car or truck, take them somewhere, unload them again, wait to be used later. Do the most with the least. Use everything for something. Always think of that before you throw something away. And here we have edible landscaping. So once the trees start moving up, all the edges underneath and around the trees, those are the places to put your garden. You can create a harvesting pathway to go along underneath the edges of the tree, as long as you don't lose the sunlight, and work your edible landscaping like that. Sanctuary spots, my gracious, they will begin to appear to you, especially as the trees get up and the ponds get developed, and you start to work around the edge of the pond and build a little bridge here and a little bridge there, and have places where hammocks can go, and little shelters where you're only taking an afternoon nap, but you're taking it in fresh air. This is a whole science. Pay attention to your Disney kind of thinking and your Imagineering mind here. Life force, big idea. Most people have forgotten that when you live in a polluted city, compromised by noise pollution, light pollution, and chemicals that are dust and dirt and God knows what else. When you live out in the country and the fresh air comes through the trees and through the plants to you, the bioenergy that comes from those trees goes in you. You can eat. There are such people called breatharians. They actually can live that way. So at the tiniest level, all the drops of water can contain bioenergy and life force. Look for all the ways you can get life force around you from what exists right there, including taking it up through your feet as you walk, doing Tai Chi so you learn how to feel the life force in you, and then become sensitive to staying in life force living for the rest of the time. that's kind of the big idea of Mission Paradise. It's a wonderful sort of cycle of life that you can move into, and I think you'll find that the sooner you decide to do this, the better off you'll be. I mean that. Go plan it.